Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I am your host, Art Stapleton, and we are in Week 3, and the Giants are home. After a wild game in Dallas, we were through it. If you watch the post-game podcast from AT&T Stadium, the Giants lose 40-37 in overtime. Feels like they have a little bit of life. Now, 1 week to the next in the NFL, you can never tell if it's going to carry over. Russell Wilson, 450 yards passing. Malik Neighbors with a big game. Wan'Dale Robinson with a breakout. And then the questions were about the defense. Well, it doesn't get any bigger than Sunday Night Football. The most watched TV show in the country at any time on any network is Sunday Night Football. And the Giants just happen to be playing the real America's team, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, both teams are 0-2, and it's going to be a wild one at MetLife Stadium. I'm not sure as wild as last week, but we would expect Taylor Swift in attendance, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Although who knows, Jason Kelce may show up. And it's been a wild week for the Giants to get ready to take on an 0-2 Chiefs team and not overlook them. You see the logo, you see the quarterback, and you know the head coach and Andy Reid, you know the defensive coordinator and Steve Spagnuolo, but with the Giants, they're sitting at 0-2 as well, and they desperately need a win. So it'll be interesting. On today's show, I'll preview the game, but also we will have a special guest, courtesy of Old Spice, the greatest smell in the NFL campaign. It's a guy who knows what it's like to play in a few big games. That's Justin Tuck, and he'll be with us in a little while on the show talking about the Giants, and we'll talk about Steve Spagnuolo and his memories from when the Giants were 0-2 in 2007. And then obviously things turned around, and we all know what happened in Super Bowl 42. So before we get to Justin, let me look ahead to this weekend. The Giants, Andrew Thomas practicing again for the third straight day, as I told you he would last week, still on a limited basis, which essentially means he's taking most of the first team reps, but he's not taking all of them, so he's listed as limited. I would expect him to be questionable on the injury report. I think the Giants are probably going to work him out a little bit pregame, see how he feels on Sunday, but I would anticipate Andrew Thomas being back on Sunday night. Now, what does that mean for Marcus Bowe? Played very well in a relief role of James Hudson last week. I think Bowe is now the swing tackle, and I would think he's first up if Andrew Thomas has any issues whatsoever. You may even see a rotation with Thomas and Bowe at left tackle if Thomas can't go the full workload. But that helps the Giants, obviously. The big difference, I think, going into Sunday night is the reality of, look, this team needs a run game. And the reason why Jackson Dart was put in for those 3 snaps is that Jackson Dart's ability to run the zone read with Cam Skattebo and maybe even with Tyrone Tracy, but on Sunday it was with Cam Skattebo, gives the defense something else. If it pulls an extra defender towards Dart, it might give Skattebo or whatever running back a crease. And that's exactly what it did on that drive that Skattebo ended up punctuating with a touchdown run. So that is an interesting part, an interesting aspect of Jackson Dart taking the field Sunday night. Now, I think Russell Wilson silenced the doubters to an extent. He showed he can still play. He still has the deep ball. But as soon as Jackson Dart takes the field on Sunday night, if he takes the field for one of these special packages for the zone read, all of a sudden, the crowd, the home crowd, there's a good portion of the Giants fans who want to see Jackson Dart. You're going to see the number 6 jerseys all over the place in MetLife. I think they want to see Jackson Dart play. So the ebb and flow, the putting Dart in and then taking him back out and putting Wilson in on the road is a little bit different than doing it at home. So it'll be very interesting. I do think Dart will play. I don't know how much he'll play. It depends on what Steve Spagnuolo does and tries to attack this Giants offense. What I would expect is I would expect a lot of pressure up front and an umbrella on the back end from Spagnuolo. They're going to try to take away those deep shots from Russell Wilson. The Giants just ran routes right through the secondary against Dallas. They are not going to be able to do that, I don't think, against Kansas City. So it's going to be the run game. Can the Giants get any semblance of a run game with Scadaboo and Tracy and even Motor Singletary to an extent to be able to challenge this Kansas City defense? On the flip side of it, the Giants defense. Talked to Dexter Lawrence this week. Talk to the Giants in general about Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence sets a standard where he is the most dominant player at his position, nose tackle. Now, the Giants have kind of moved him up and down the line, trying to find the right fits. I'd put him right back over the center. Now, Kansas City has a very good center. But in terms of where Dexter plays, I want him right over the center. I want him giving him a hard time. And I think that's standard. Dexter Lawrence's play has not been to the Dexter Lawrence standard, and he even said that. But I think it's part of working back in. I think it's also teams have not stopped double-teaming Dexter. I think he's got the highest double-team rate in the league for a defensive player. You know, it's about the Giants finding one-on-one matchups, and that comes down to Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter. Can they find those matchups? Can they get Patrick Mahomes in those down in distances where maybe Mahomes can make a mistake? I think a big thing we're going to look at on Sunday night, I asked Brian Burns about this. We've all seen Patrick Mahomes trying to bait defenders. Does he go out of bounds? Does he stay in bounds? Those late flags. The Giants with 21 flags called on them last week, 14 penalties, 4 for James Hudson. The Giants, the last thing they need is to come out and seeing flags fly all over the place. So I think that's the biggest thing, and we'll get into it with Justin a little bit. How does Spags attack this Giants defense? Because the production that they put up last week, I think, is you have to treat it as an anomaly before you think it's a regular occurrence. So are they more like week one? And if they're more like week one, then it comes back to can Jackson Dart be on the field? That's the offense. The defense, I think, again, the Patrick Mahomes situation, you know, Brian Burns said, you know, you can't let him bait you into flags. Like, we know his game. We know what's going on. But that is going to be a theme on Sunday night for sure. But without further ado, let's get to our guest from Old Spice as part of the Old Spice Greatest Smell in the NFL campaign. As you know him, number 91, Giants legend, 2-time Super Bowl champion, Justin Tuck. All right, as promised, joining me now as part of the Old Spice Greatest Smell in the NFL campaign, my man, number 91, Justin Tuck, Giants legend. There you go. Justin, it's been a while, but I do appreciate you joining us here on All In. You've heard a little bit about the All In tagline, I would imagine, at some point.
I had a little bit to do with it.
Little bit. Before we get into talking football, let's talk about what you've been doing out there this morning in North Jersey at Union City High School, empowering the next generation of legends on behalf of Old Spice. What do you like about these kind of events? Because the older you get, you and I get old, you try to remember, they still remember you, right? I mean, that kind of
I think, as you said, the older you get, the more faint the memory is. So I can lie about my stats because they don't really know as much. They know I played in the Super Bowl, but they don't know that I had 7 sacks instead of 2. Those type of things I can just stand on stage and sound better than what I really was. But I think I like the things about this because it gives me an opportunity to be in these communities that have truly championed me and the Giants throughout my career. And it's just ways that I think is important to give back, especially for these kids who are looking for mentorship or anything that's a positive light. Obviously, too much of our world right now is showcasing negativity. So the opportunity that I have is to come in and just really, hopefully say something, a positive thing that they can bowl on and build on, and obviously getting the partnership with Old Spice, who's allowing this partnership with the NFL and Old Spice, allowing me to be here is something that's great. And you know me, I've always been the guy that always wanted to partner with brands like this that go in these communities and try their best to make a difference.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That's why I was laughing before you had come on. They were like, "Oh, he's running a little late talking to the kids." I was like, "Hey, anybody who wants to talk to Justin Tuck? I mean, we used to try to keep you in the locker room 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You'd wear those Gladiator "Are You Not Entertained" T-shirts, if you remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while since they've won over here, so I keep going back. I go back to when we talked to you on Fridays, and we were talking about playing big games here at the Giants. I wanted to ask you, you got your old buddy and Steve Spagnuolo coming back on Sunday night. You know what it's like to go into a big game where no one thinks you could win against an iconic quarterback.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tap into that a little bit, just the psychology. I mean, look, you also, in 2007, you guys were 0-2. Your season was on the brink, and you had a fourth down stop, a goal line stand. Take me inside the psychology of a team, because people forget back in 2007, you guys weren't the champions from 4 years ago. You were a team that nobody believed in. I mean, everybody wanted your coach fired. They didn't believe in your quarterback. Take me back a little bit and maybe look at it forward. How do you prepare for a moment like this where seemingly everything is stacked against you?
Art, that's such a good question. That's probably why I like talking to you, man. Because that's exactly right. It takes you back to that moment when you are 0-2 and everyone wants to fire your quarterback and they're saying Eli, whatever adjective you want to say there, right? They're saying our defense can't hold water. And again, in high school, guys, so I apologize for the sound, but it takes you back to those moments in the locker room where you really realize there's 53 guys that are pulling the rope or trying to pull the rope in the right direction. And you just go back to the things that have gotten you there, right? Even in those moments of success or failure, there's a reason why you've gotten those places, right? And that's your routine. That's building the confidence during the week. And that's making sure that every guy knows what they're doing, and eventually you're going to learn how to win these games. And I'm very optimistic about the fact that if they continue, if this Giants team continues to put themselves in the situations that they were in last week, they're going to start figuring out ways to win those games. Going back to that 0-2 start we're in Washington, we hadn't figured out how to come out of those games winners. We had previously lost those type of games. Now something clicked and allowed us to come out of that game victorious, and then the ball started rolling in our right direction, right? Did we change anything? No. It just became this situation where now we have confidence that when we're in these situations, we have a quarterback that's proven he can put us in the right position. All we need to do is get our team in that position again. And that during those years, we never blew anybody out, really. We always got the game in the fourth quarter, and because of these confident moments or these confident building moments, we found a way to win these games. And I'm hoping that this team is on the verge of that, because you get to see them a lot more than I do, but I don't think there's a talent shortage on the defensive line or on the linebackers. What I think is they don't understand yet.
Can you please come to the main office? Ashley Paulino to the main office.
They don't understand yet how to win those games, and hopefully they'll start to understand those games. And what better time to do it than on Sunday night against, like you said, a superstar quarterback, and a team that's been the toast of the town for the last, call it maybe 5-7 years. So I hope that locker room is chomping at the bit to get back out there and do it in a fashion where everybody's going to be watching you on Sunday night.
That's what's funny is that, that defense that you had in 2007, everybody remembers the way the season ended, and, the co-Super Bowl MVP with Eli Manning should have been Justin Tuck, but I guess that's an argument for another day. But as far as that defense goes, we were talking about it this week. I know, Carl Banks was putting it out there too. After 2 weeks, people wondering if Steve Spagnuolo knew what the hell he was doing. I mean, you guys gave up, 80 points in the first 2 weeks?
Now we did give it up against, a Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre and a team that had 13 Pro Bowlers. But again, you're right. We hadn't found our rhythm at that point. Again, I think we had the talent was there. I was with Michael and OC and me and Q and Nuka, and our secondary with Corey and Butler and Jabril, and our linebacker core with obviously the captain and Antonio Pierce and the like. Right, we had the talent. We had Fred Robertson, Barry Cofield. The talent was there. I think we hadn't put it together from the perspective of, one, we had a new system. We had a new coach, Spags. We was learning, what it is that he'd like to call in certain moments that got us into position to win. So the scheme was a thing, but also, we were still trying to figure out how to play off each other. They had just really started the NASCAR package and when am I coming in and how to play off of that and all that. So again, it's just a confidence booster. I'm hoping that the Giants take the loss against Dallas as a confidence booster and not the opposite. Because it's easy to say, oh, woe is me, we just can't find a way to win, instead of saying, hey, man, we did a lot of great things on Sunday. It didn't go our way, but how do we build on that? And that might be hard because, like you said, they've had years of not having that be going their way. So I'm hoping the leadership in that locker room has really, really took a turn from the perspective of let's build on this and not say, hey, here we go again.
Right. But you mentioned the birth of the NASCAR package. Obviously, we always go back to that, especially when the Giants drafted Abdul Carter. You were kind of in that role with Abdul. I mean, you were a little bit more, you could play more on the interior than he does. He's more stand-up than hand down. But I'm curious what you thought of their usage right now with the edge guys. And is that only going to be one of those things that gets better because they're learning how to play with each other and really learning what they can do in that situation? Like the evolution of the NASCAR package was not the same from week 1 to week 17.
Well, again, I think like you talked about, the evolution of it was, man, me, Osi, and Stray, and all the D-line for that matter, Dave Tolson, all of us got really, really comfortable about knowing each other better than we knew ourselves. I knew in certain situations what rushes Osi and Stray and Barry Cofield, Fred Roberts, or whoever else was in there. I knew the rushes that they liked. So in those situations where I was playing the floater, I just knew, like, when you take into consideration, hey, I know how the offensive line has to block because, it's a 2x2 or a 3x1 setting, back offset, et cetera, et cetera. I know where they're calling the mic, so I know where he wants to slide the offensive line. Then I know what rush Strahan likes. When you put all those factors into play, like at first it speeds the game up for you, right? It's a lot of stuff to take in the first 3 or 4 weeks because we haven't seen it.
Right.
But then after that, when you've been in those situations, it becomes, like I was telling the kids earlier, like the game just slows down. And now I know where I can piece myself into OC, Stray, Barry, Fred, Dave, whatever it may be, based off of what the offense is doing.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going to see the maturation of this team, especially when it comes to this NASCAR package. As they continue to get in these situations, Burns and Thibodeau learning, me and Osi could look at each other and I can give him like a scratch on my helmet. He knew that meant I was going to do an inside out rush, or, if I tap my knee, we did. Those are the type of things where when the game is speeding up, which I'm sure it is for a rookie guy like Abdul, because they're asking him to do a lot. Those are the ways we slowed it down just by being on the same page. And then after games and games of that, we didn't have to look at each other. I know it's third and 4. I know how this left tackle is blocking OC. I already know what he's doing. Right. So I knew how to call. Like a lot of times I'll tell Spags, I was like, listen, OC's kicking this guy's ass. I'm not messing with him. Let me and Stray do something. Or Stray is kicking this guy, but let me and OC do something. So I think it's going to come to a point where our defensive coordinators will understand or give them the freedom to understand the game. And then it becomes, what they're going to do with it. Now, they're still young and they don't have the experience that a Stray and OC had that allowed me to do that. But again, that's the maturation that I hope we get the opportunity to see. Because the talent is no doubt.
Do you when you see Abdul, he's still in the early stages of his career, but, everybody around here kind of walks around and whispers, that guy's different. That guy's different. You guys kind of felt that way when JPP came aboard, right? Just the physical tools that he had. But from what you've seen from Abdul, and I know you're a big college fan, so you obviously knew about him before he got here. What have you been your impressions?
He's explosive. He's powerful as he continues to get more comfortable. And again, a lot of our success came from the fact that we were always in games. Our quarterback and our offense put up points, gave us opportunity to pin our ears back in certain situations. As they continue to do that type of stuff, you're going to really see him open up and become that player that he was at Penn State. Again, talent, I'm not worried about the talent. What I am worried about is if he can continue to build on his confidence, continue to build on his maturity on the field, his understanding of what offenses are doing to him, and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. Hey, I got one question because I got to jump, but I got one more for you.
You got it. All right, here's the question. You're stepping in to that huddle. 91's in that defensive huddle before the game. We've heard your epic rants to your teammates. Give me one for what you're going to say to this defense Sunday night, 0-2, national television, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. What do you say to your Giants teammates to get them to play like a champion?
I mean, we're in a public setting, so I can't use the verbiage that I would use, and I'm out of practice. But I think it boils down to this. It would have to be something around the fact that in order for us to truly, truly become the team that we want to become, it has to start now. And there's an old saying about how the Vikings would go into to places in which they were going to take over. They burnt the ships. There's no way for us to come home, even though obviously we're playing in Giant Stadium, but there's no way for us to come back home unless we take something of theirs, right? So the Vikings would go into these raids and they would burn their ships. And the only way they were getting home was to take the enemy ships. So for us, they have something we want. And Spagnuolo is sitting there and being, the model of what we want. A guy who's won. He's won Super Bowls here. He's won Super Bowls there. Their time is up. And the opportunity that we have right now, you're not going to get this back. You cannot not seize this opportunity. You have the best quarterback in the league that's coming in here, and they're bringing in I don't know what they call it, Taylor Swift. I know Beyonce is the Beehive. I don't know what they call the Taylor Swift. Swifties. The Swifties are coming here. The Swifties can't save Patrick Mahomes tonight, right? And it'll be something like that where, I gotta know that you have to know that every time I put my hand in the dirt, I'm playing for you and you're playing for me. And that's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to do anything that you haven't done before. But what I am asking you to do is to do it now. And that's the gist. Now there would be a lot more, choice words. But that's the thing that you have to tell this team right now. And again, they have the talent. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and get out there and perform. We get paid a lot of money to perform. They're expecting you to perform. All I'm asking you to do is to perform. Now, as your captain, I'm never going to ask you to do something you can't do, but you better be damn sure I'm going to ask you to do the stuff that you can. And that wins football games.
A man who has won the biggest of the big, Justin Tuck, on behalf of Old Spice. Thanks for joining me. Always all in, Justin Tuck.
All right. Thanks, man. Always a pleasure, my friend. I'll see you on Sunday.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Peace.
All right. Thanks to Justin Tuck. Obviously, it's going to be a big one on Sunday night, and it's been a while since the Giants have been able to put up their best against the best in prime time. So Sunday Night Football on NBC, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth. You got the whole show at MetLife. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, maybe Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift in the stands. Can the Giants rise to the occasion? They need this one even worse than they needed last week in Dallas. If they go to 0-3 and then all of a sudden they have the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert coming in here next weekend, you can't go to 0-4 and head down to New Orleans searching for your first win. Maybe the Giants can come out and shock the world. I still think the Chiefs pull out a close one. But I do think it's going to be close. So Sunday night, we'll be all over it. Follow me all over on social media from MetLife Stadium on NorthJersey.com. And then we will be on our YouTube page and all the podcast platforms. Post-game all in with Paul Wood and I. We appreciate you being all in. We're all in too. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you on Sunday night.